Raquel, thank you so much for joining me. It's fabulous to be able to have this opportunity to talk with you. And Raquel, you're the CEO and founder of 50 Shades Greener, my favorite name of any company under the sun. I think it's amazing. But 50 Shades Greener is obviously, a world leading company when it comes to environmental education. And I'm fascinated to talk with you today to find out a bit more about you and about the company, because I know that hospitality and sustainability are massively close to your heart. And you have been in this world from a very young age. But I wondered what led you to start the business? And if you could just talk me through your journey in the industry.
Yeah, thank you for having me, first of all. I guess, I like you said, I've been working in hospitality all my life. I would say since the age of 17. I was 17 years old in Spain, and my dad offered me a one-way ticket to wherever I wanted to go. And a week later, I had landed in Shannon in County Clare, of all places. And I guess I had no English at the time. So the only thing I could do to sustain myself at the beginning was to clean bedrooms as a housekeeping assistant in a hotel in Ireland. And I guess that was quite a shock to my system. I was quite spoiled. I had never expected to end up working in hospitality, but I really found my place within the industry. I realized that I had never been a person that kind of learned through books or conventional methods of education. But when I fell into hospitality, I found that place in the world where I could learn by doing. And it led me to have an amazing career working as a manager in many different countries around the world. And I just absolutely loved hospitality. I was working in the Maldives in 2004 as a resort manager when the Boxing Day tsunami came and hit our island. And obviously devastated so many cities, so many people died over that event. I didn't realize it at the time, I guess, but I suffer from climate anxiety since that day. I used to have recurring nightmares of these big natural disasters that would just wipe humanity. But of course, we didn't really speak about eco-anxiety at the time. And so I didn't really know what it was. I just felt that obviously I was going a little bit crazy, I guess, after experiencing the tsunami. And I just continued sort of trying to move on with my life and continue working in hospitality. But I was working in Hotel Doolan here in County Clare in 2012. I moved back to Ireland after the tsunami, actually. And my general manager came to work one day and he said to me, I want to run the greenest hotel in Ireland and I'm going to make you the new green manager. And half enough in hospitality, it often happens. You get a new title and just more work. That's all it means. But I guess I am a person that has always liked a challenge. And so I decided to take on this new position as well as staying as a sales and marketing manager. And I started learning about sustainability. And I guess back then we didn't have as much information as we have right now. Climate change to me was something that scientists and governments would argue about, really. And, I'd never thought that a regular person like me could do anything at all about climate change. I just was not aware of anything, of how my life, I guess, would impact the planet. But while I was learning about green hospitality in Hotel Doolan, I learned that I could actually very easily calculate the hotel's carbon emissions. And that was kind of a revelation for me because I thought carbon emissions management, again, was something only for scientists. And by measuring those emissions, I realized that our business had an effect on climate change and the environment, however small that might be in comparison with, a whole country. And that if I could measure those emissions, I could also manage them and reduce them. And that's when my life, I guess, changed. And my life mission then became to learn more about environmental sustainability, how businesses, how our lives affect the planet, and, to learn about all those things that we can do to reduce them. So obviously it took me a few years to build the courage, I guess, to set up my own business. It wasn't until 2017 that I decided to leave my career in hospitality and found 50 Shades Greener because I realized that I wanted to teach everybody the things that I had learned within my own green journey.
Absolutely. And when you say teach everyone, I mean, you have an amazing focus within the schools environment, but also in the hospitality environment. So how have, like you say, sustainability is something that only the scientists were talking about back in the day, but now everybody is talking about it. So how have you seen things change? How have you seen the dialogue change?
Yeah, I guess for me, it all, I started seeing a shift, obviously, probably about 4 years ago with the entire Fridays for Future movement and Greta Thunberg. Obviously, governments had started to, make serious commitments, I would call them, since the Paris Agreement. But for me, the shift in society started when Greta Thunberg and the Fridays for Future started their campaigns for governments to act faster. And then obviously the pandemic came. And you could say, in my view, the pandemic kind of has helped sustainability, but has also had a negative effect on sustainability. The positive effect for me is that I think the pandemic gave business owners and society in general a chance to stop this hamster wheel that we've all been in world's modern society and our capitalist, you could say, economies. And it gave everybody that chance to stop and realize that nature can have a profound effect in humanity, that if we don't look after nature, it's going to come back to haunt us at some point. And I think that really gave society that change in mindset that we needed. That sustainability is now at the forefront of a lot of people's hearts, and particularly young generations. In the negative side, obviously, the pandemic made us all go back to the use of single-use plastics, face masks, even the sanitizing gels that are so bad for our skin and they contain so many chemicals. So there was a lot of negative effects, but I think in terms of a shift in mentality, it has created kind of a positive movement towards people wanting to become more sustainable and look after the environment.
I suppose with the passage of time, being able to be more sustainable gets easier rather than gets more difficult.
That's it. Yeah. I clearly remember the start of the pandemic. I had just literally in January 2020 launched my programs as online programs for the hospitality industry. I had become an online company. And obviously in March, all of my potential customers around the world closed their doors. And I was thinking, this is it. I am done. But then I thought, right, what am I going to do to fill my time? I don't want to be sitting here doing nothing. I'm not a person that can do that. And so I took out a small module of my green business program, which is teaching people how to measure carbon emissions. And I put it as a standalone, 1 hour training program online. And I offer it for free to anybody in the industry that would have been sitting at home doing nothing. And within less than 6 weeks, I had 5,000 students registered from 10 different countries around the world. These were all just employees of the industry. And so it did two things for me. First, it was amazing market research. I realized that people wanted to learn this. And two, it kept me sane because I had something to do. I could support those students, even though I wasn't making any money, at least I was doing something, And yeah, I think people did have more time to learn and upskill. Unfortunately, again, probably due to the pandemic, but many other factors, we did see a huge migration, we'll say, from hospitality employees to other industries. And now we're facing a lot of shortages in terms of the staff, which is, again, is slowing down the process of hospitality embracing sustainability, because they're back to sort of the ways prior to the pandemic where they have no time. And that's really what I hear from all of our students all over the world. It's a lack of time, a lack of a staff. But I mean, like I always say to them, if you knew, for example, that your team didn't have enough customer services skills, you would dedicate the time to train them and make sure that changes, because your business depends on it. And I guess we need to start viewing sustainability as a key component as well of our business strategies. it's not about having the time, it's about making the time no matter how. We all have to make time for it, because I firmly believe that any business that doesn't engage with sustainability in the next couple of years is really going to get left behind. And society are demanding for businesses to adopt green practices. It's not anymore viewed as just a nice thing to do. It's viewed as something that everybody has to do. And so we just have to make that time.
Absolutely. And I also wonder, with sort of the current crisis we find ourselves sort of globally in, with increases in a lot of sort of our costs just from energy and supply chain, whether that will possibly be a positive when you look at adapting your business to be more sustainable.
Yeah, that is definitely, for us, it's always been the marketing driving tool is the cost savings benefits, because unfortunately, a lot of people think that running a green business is going to cost them a lot of money, that they have to invest to become green, where for me is the actual opposite. So the first thing you need to do is teach your staff how to become resource efficient, how to be able to reduce energy waste and water within the workplace or even their own households. And when you reduce energy waste and water, you're obviously going to save a lot of money from your utility bills. I give you a really small example of something we implemented at Hotel Doolin. See, I had kind of learned from our equipment, and I knew that our main oven in the kitchen used 38 kilowatt hours. And I knew our electricity unit price was 15 cents. So I could calculate that if we were to turn off that oven for just 1 extra hour a day, every day, we would reduce their electricity use by 14,000 kilowatts and save €2,000 in 1 year. And that was just one oven off for an hour a day. And when we started observing our chef's behavior, we realized that the breakfast chef would come in at 6 a.m. and switch every machine on. And that's just, when I asked him about it, he said, but that's what I've done all my life. I'm just ready for a busy day. And sure, who could blame him? Nobody ever told him any different. But then we realized we didn't use our breakfast or main oven until we started prepping for lunch, and that we could leave it off until 10 o'clock every morning. So we wiped 4 hours of energy use there just by making these calculations and observing our own behavior. And that saved us over €8,000 and reduced our carbon emissions. But by just simply telling all of our chefs, this oven doesn't come on now until 10 a.m. Such a simple thing to do. And you can save so much money. In a hotel, your utility bills are the second largest cost to your business. The first largest cost is obviously your staff. Second is your utilities. But when we're going through hard financial times, we tend to always go and cut down the rosters, have less people on duty, rather than saying, okay, how can we save money from our energy use or our water use or our waste production? Let's reduce that first and become really efficient. And then we can look at our people, but it tends to be the opposite. We just always think about reducing the staff numbers straight away, which it's not really good for social sustainability either, because you're taking, hours of your employees. Cost reductions is a huge driver in terms of marketing green programs. For me, it doesn't matter to me whether a general manager decides to, participate in our programs because they want to be good for the planet or just because they want to save money. As long as they engage and they do something about it, it's a win-win situation. But cost savings is a massive thing at the moment. We haven't launched it officially yet, but we've just developed a kind of an adult education program that teaches you how to measure and reduce energy waste to water at home. And then it teaches you how to bring that learning back to your workplace, no matter what industry you work in. And so we are, in talks now here in Ireland with the government, how this program could assist people not to get into energy poverty, because it is going to become a big issue in the next 2 to 3 years.
Yeah. No, that's absolutely. And you're also planting the seed really, really early on, because you engage heavily with schools.
Yes. So I guess, we dedicated ourselves to hospitality because that's the industry I love, and it's the industry that I know inside out. And so I felt I could really do that. But after a couple of years, I realized I was trying to teach adults how to change behavior. So they had built over the last 10, 20, 30 years. And I started thinking, how much easier would it be if the next generations didn't create these habits, because they're told about, how our lives impact the environment from an early young age. And so I literally nearly took out all the learning outcomes from the hospitality program, obviously made them a little bit easier and made them as a secondary schools program. And now we have students as young as 14 or 15 measuring their households' carbon emissions and then reducing them. And I guess the program just helps them understand that, every single thing we do in our lives matters. Every decision that we make, from the things that we buy to the electricity that we purchase to the way we use our electricity or equipment, everything has an effect on the environment. Yeah. And it's not about being perfect, and be net zero. It's not like we need everybody to be net zero. We just need millions of people taking small adjustments into their own behavior to reduce their impact on the environment. And we will have a much cleaner society in the future, I guess.
Absolutely. And I wondered what your greatest challenge has been so far. And I appreciate with sustainability, there will be lots of challenges, but which one is your biggest one so far?
I think for me, the biggest challenge was obviously at the beginning to make that decision to leave hospitality and set up a business, because you can have a really good idea or you can have a very big dream, but to actually put that into action, it was quite scary at the time. And I guess because I have carried certain feelings of insecurity from my early years as a teenager, because I didn't learn like a normal academics books, and I never did a degree. I didn't go to college. And then the thought of me leaving my beloved career in hospitality to become the owner of an educational company seemed like a pretty big step to take. And I guess it developed into this kind of imposter syndrome, which I'm still working at getting rid of. But, this little voice in your head telling you, you're not good enough. How could you teach anything to anyone when you've never even gone through college, And that was a big challenge for me. And it has been a recurring challenge, every time I guess I'm asked to do a motivational speech. I'm like, oh, Jesus, I couldn't do that. I do think that imposter syndrome is something that a lot of women in business suffer. And the reality of it is that it's not true. It's just in our heads. And we're the only people that can change that narrative in our own head, Yeah. But that has been a big challenge for me. And I'm still working at it. I've learned how to suppress the voice now, but it's still there, I guess. I think it'll probably always be there.
And you're right, it's the stories we tell ourselves. Somebody told me, which I think is just such a great way of explaining. Exactly. That was such a great way of explaining it. And if you realize it's the story you tell yourself, you can change the story you tell yourself. And just lastly, what are your hopes for the future for 50 Shades, but also from a sustainability perspective?
Yeah, I guess my hope for the future is that 50 Shades and many other educational companies out there, would help shift a different society, that in the next 10 years, 20 years, environmental education is embedded into all of our curriculums, from primary school to secondary up to third level education. Every single industry, every curriculum should have sustainability added to it. And we're not there yet, but I do believe that's the only way that we're going to help build a carbon conscious society, and a society that is not only aware, but has the motivation to reduce their impact on the environment. And I think, to me, that's the only way we're going to reach net zero. We can rely on technology to decarbonize the world all we want, but unless we actually start teaching people from a very young age how they can manage their own emissions, then I don't think we're ever going to get to net zero. So yeah, my hope is just to help shape a different society than the one that I grew up in, I guess.
And you're definitely doing that. So congratulations, and keep up the good work. You're doing some fantastic things. We're very proud. So well done.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
It's a pleasure. Thank you so much for talking with me. I'm so grateful. You're wonderful.
No bother at all. Thank you.
See you soon.